Why did Arizona expand COVID-19 vaccine eligibility so fast? The answer coming up.
Plus, as coronavirus cases drop, air travel is on the rise. How Sky Harbor is handling the recent surge in travelers.
And on Break It Down, the gender gap in careers in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm SEDONA Meadows.
And I'm Ivory Ward. Thank you for joining us.
Registration at Arizona state-operated COVID-19 vaccination sites in Maricopa, Pima, and Yuma counties opened to all Arizonans 16 and older this morning.
Cronkite News reporter Delaney explains why vaccines became available to a younger age group in so little time.
The expansion of the age group happened after a large number of people from the previously qualified age group failed to show up for their vaccine appointments. Director of ASU's Biodesign Institute, Joshua LeBaire, explains current testing and data trends.
After Arizona switched to an age-based vaccine registration system, allowing anyone 55 and older to register for a vaccine appointment, the turnout was disappointing.
The word we heard was that over the weekend, there were a lot of missed appointments. And then when the governor announced that they were lowering the age for availability to 16, all those appointments filled.
Today, Arizona opened state vaccination sites to anyone aged 16 and older.
If the public is, remains, aggressive about getting vaccinated, I still think that we should be able to reach herd immunity by July.
So many people logged on the website that there was trouble registering. People were clicking on appointments only to receive a message saying the slots were no longer available.
The demand for testing goes down when the cases are down, and I think in many ways that's following in this situation. But certainly the numbers in the hospitals in general appears to suggest that we do have a lower case burden right now.
Even after vaccination, LeBaire says those in high-risk categories must remain vigilant and take precautions.
If there's anybody in any of those people that is at high risk of bad outcome from the virus, that caution should be taken.
Though there is little risk for infection of a vaccinated individual, LeBaire cautions mask wearing is still essential to public health and safety.
We don't know for sure that people who are even fully vaccinated can't get the virus and spread it. So while there's not very much risk to them personally, so they themselves are probably not at risk, there is the potential that they could be a carrier and deliver the virus to somebody who is at risk.
AZDHS now opens appointments for state-run sites at 11 a.m. each Friday. In the studio, Delaney White, Cronkite News.
After more than a year of the pandemic, you may find yourself wanting to share your excitement over getting the vaccine. But be careful what you share on social media. Experts warn the personal information on your card, like birth date and where the vaccine was administered, could make you a target for scams.
COVID-19 has led to more than 5,000 deaths in the United States and close to 3 million worldwide. In particular, it's impacted the world of caregiving, especially for those with dementia. Cronkite News reporter Tina Giuliano gives us a glimpse of many challenges. Tina?
Those caring for people with dementia have had to find new strategies to help keep their patients safe during the pandemic. According to the Alzheimer's Association, Arizona has had the highest increase in dementia deaths during the COVID-19 outbreak compared to anywhere else in the country. I sat down with the owner of Perpetual Help Assisted Living in Scottsdale to see just how they've adjusted to the many changes.
Like, it's so messy. It's hard.
It's a small space.
Not only for us caregivers, owner, but also for the family and for the residents too.
A space that only fits 5 plus 2 caregivers and the owner, Marian Gutierrez.
It's my responsibility. Like, I need to be very attentive, like looking for the signs and symptoms of COVID.
And like Gutierrez says, the coronavirus doesn't discriminate.
We're fighting the COVID and, there's no race, there's no religion, there's no age for this.
For the people living in the facility, particularly those with dementia, the pandemic caused an abrupt change to their daily routine.
I feel like they're more confused because, the constant the daily visitation from the family, that it's not happening anymore.
Those routines and visits replaced with the pandemic's rules and regulations. Some residents in assisted living homes like this one sometimes struggle to remember these in order to do this. Gutierrez says her home follows all coronavirus restrictions, including social distancing and masks.
They're taking it off, and then they don't understand why do we need to put it on, and why do we need to social distance.
COVID-19 has also seen an increase in the number of deaths among those persons living with Alzheimer's disease.
The virus is especially impacting minority communities.
For COVID-19, it has actually exacerbated what was already a bad situation among populations of color.
While the pandemic created difficulties for caregivers and residents, Gutierrez says the pressure let up a bit once they all got vaccinated.
That really lessened the, they're thinking about, the side effect, and I'm like, oh, okay, I feel like we're good now, we're covered. Yeah. They're more at ease now.
Arizona's dementia caregivers have had the highest average number of hours worked per week in the country. According to the Alzheimer's Association, that's why Gutierrez says her and her team has focused on caring for their residents and their own mental health by ordering food and playing games together. In the broadcast center, Tina Giuliano, Cronkite News.
For the third day in a row, the Navajo Nation has reported no new COVID-19 deaths. Yesterday, they only reported 3 new COVID-19 cases. That brings their totals to just over 30,000 infections and around 1,200 fatalities from the virus. The Navajo Nation had a soft reopening last week with 25% capacity for some businesses under certain restrictions. Still, mask mandates and daily curfews remain.
With COVID-19 cases on the decline, people are starting to travel again. Last Sunday, more than 1.5 million travelers were screened by TSA at airports in the U.S., which is the first time that they've hit the number since the pandemic began. Julia Sandor joins us in the studio with a look at the numbers.
And that's true here in Phoenix as well. According to Phoenix Sky Harbor statistics, more than 1.68 million passengers traveled through the airport in January 2021. As spring break and spring training are underway, the increase in travel is noticeable in airports across the country. Just yesterday, TSA screened more than 745,000 more people than they did in March 2020.
Out of all the months, after the pandemic, March has been, we have seen a bit of more of an increase in travel versus the other months. But again, it's not to the 2019 levels or numbers yet. We continue to remind travelers to keep their distance from each other. We have 6 feet markers and reminders like overhead announcements, reminding travelers to keep their distance, wear their facial coverings.
In March 2019, the average number of people screened by TSA every day was about 2 million. As airlines are starting to fill flights, airports are continuing to enforce COVID protocols. Experts are still warning against travel during this time, but as vaccines are becoming more attainable and the spring season is approaching, airports are expecting even more travel. In the studio, Julia Sandor, Cronkite News.
Right now, snow is hitting both northern and southern Arizona, and the valley is seeing colder than usual temperatures after yesterday's scattered showers. So will the rain stick around? Faith Abercrombie joins us now with what we can expect for the rest of the week. Faith?
Yes, as we take a look at these clouds over the next couple of days, they might be our friend. They're sort of brushing through the valley and Phoenix area in general. Now, taking a look at our high temperatures for tomorrow, a little bit more chillier temperatures up in northern Arizona with 40 degrees in the Grand Canyon, 37 in Flagstaff. But as we head down to Yuma, things are starting to heat up with 75 as our high temperature tomorrow, but we're not far behind with 74 degrees here in Phoenix. Now tonight, a beautiful, clear and starry night, maybe a little bit of clouds around 7 p.m. Maybe a little bit of a breeze as well with lowering 60-degree temperatures. Now taking a look at our 8-day forecast, tomorrow it'll be 74 degrees, a little windy, and some of those clouds, maybe a slight chance of rain on Friday. But as we go into the rest of the weekend and the next week, it'll be beautiful and sunny skies with rising 80-degree temperatures, perfect to take a walk, go outside, or maybe even take a dip in the pool with that 90-degree temperature on Thursday. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Faith Abercrombie.
Today is Equal Pay Day, the day when an average woman's salary equals the amount an average man earned by December 31st of the previous year. And advocates say the pay gap has only worsened during the pandemic. Cronkite News reporter Molly Hudson has a report from our Washington bureau.
What we've learned and what we continue to learn is that there's no level of status and there's no accomplishment or power that will protect you from the clutches of inequality.
U.S. women's national soccer team star Megan Rapinoe should know she's been the face of the fight for equal pay for players on men's and women's national teams.
We're so often told in this country that if you just work hard and continue to achieve, you will be rewarded, and rewarded fairly. It's the promise of the American dream, but that promise has not been for everyone.
Rapinoe was one of the witnesses today at a House hearing on Equal Pay Day, a day to be marked but not celebrated, says Jasmine Tucker, the director of research at the National Women's Law Center.
It marks the occasion that women are just falling behind, right? So like now we're starting in March basically to catch up to men. So like it's like a perpetual thing where we're just constantly falling behind by 3 months every single year.
Tucker Center reports that women in Arizona make 83 cents for every dollar that white men make, just a penny above the national average of 82 cents. But one witness says the pay gap comes from more than just gender discrimination.
There's a massive asterisk attached to that. This is uncontrolled. The raw data point does, number one, not compare two people in the same job, and number two, control for so many factors that influence pay.
Onwuka said the wage gap reflects choices women make in the workforce, and a one-size-fits-all government policy would take that choice away. Sex discrimination is illegal, but Rapinoe and other advocates say the pay gap still exists, and the time is now to make change.
We don't have to wait. We don't have to continue to be patient for decades on end. We can change that today. We can change that right now. We just have to want to. So, as always, LFG.
In Washington, Molly Hudson, Cronkite News.
Capitol Hill was not the only stop for Rapinoe. She and teammate Margaret Pearce took their campaign to the White House this afternoon, where the president and vice president met them as part of an equal pay day event.
Hi, I'm Gareth Kwok. After the break, I'll have your Cronkite Sports Report, including a look at the NCAA's dead period that began last March with the outbreak of the coronavirus and one Castile High School athlete's story throughout the last year. So don't go away.
I think he was a terrific father sometimes. I think that he was a loving husband sometimes. I think he was like so many people, except this enormous talent. Hemingway is very complicated. I hate the myth of Hemingway. It obscures the man, and the man is much more interesting than the myth.
Coming in April to Arizona PBS.
Here we go, lights up. Whoa.
As artists, we conduct our educations in public. You can never know whether it's going to be a success. One just has to risk it.
It's you and the work and the place. It's a very particular relationship.
Here's our lens. Tell us what you think.
Friday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
Welcome to today's Cronkite Sports Report. I'm Gareth Kwok. The Diamondbacks announced right-handed starting pitcher Zach Gallen was diagnosed with a hairline stress fracture in his throwing arm. Manager Torey Lovello says Gallen will be able to continue to play catch, but there's no timeline for his return. Gallen had a 2.75 ERA last season for the Diamondbacks and was expected to be the team's opening day starter. Now, left-hander Madison Bumgarner is expected to take his place on the hill against the Padres when the season begins next Thursday. The COVID-19 pandemic did not just put a momentary stop to sports competition. It also impacted the future of high school athletes aiming to play at the next level. The NCAA implemented a dead period for college recruiting, preventing schools from hosting in-person visits for prospects. Cronkite News reporter Mason Kern explores the effects on one Arizona prep football star.
Wrap, drive. Good.
With his junior season in disarray, Shaquan Bowser spent the last year honing his skills on the gridiron. The Castile High defender was preparing for a recruitment process that still remains uncertain.
Oh, man, I was devastated, bro. I was so devastated.
The recruiting dead period began last March, with the NCAA throwing out its traditional calendar. It prevented prep athletes from interacting with college campuses in person, restricting to a completely virtual system.
We're considering just touring the campus in general and not just the facility, which is a bummer, but it is what it is.
When will it end? Recruits are asking the same question. The deadline has been extended 8 times and is currently scheduled to stop at the end of May.
Everyone who I really talk to is, either my class or lower, and we're all in the same boat right now, and we're all starting to figure out, this confusing time.
Prospects can still take unofficial trips to college campuses, just without access to any facilities. Both sides are continuing to learn to adapt to an online recruiting process.
Colleges have been great in doing virtual visits, virtual tours with players that they're interested in, and players can always go online, and there's so many things online right now that you can get a feel for a campus, but there's nothing like being on the campus and getting a feel for the town that you're in. Like, you don't just randomly go up and go to different states, so we kind of have to plan ahead. But we also don't want to go and tour the campus just so the dead period can be lifted.
The recruiting landscape was reshaped with the class of 2021. Bowser and the rest of the 2022 recruits now have to navigate the continued uncertainty through National Signing Day in February of 2022. In Queen Creek, Mason Kern, Cronkite News.
Call them the comeback Coyotes. Arizona completed another one last night, taking down the Colorado Avalanche 5-4 in a shootout for 2 big points on home ice. Coyotes forward Christian Dvorak sealed the win with his signature shootout move.
It's a huge character win for us. Up 2-0, then down 4-2. We could have just folded, but huge comeback there. Got a couple goals in the third, and nice to win in the shootout.
That's all for today's Cronkite Sports Report. Back to you, Sedona and Ivory.
And that's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.